Welcome, everyone. We're going live, live, live. There's no doubt about that. We are going live. This is the coming apocalypse. I'm Pastor Paul Begley, and I have been under the weather. That's why you haven't seen me for a couple days. And but I'm here tonight. I had a severely infected tooth. Dentist all went on holiday, leaving me stranded for 3 days. So jaw's pretty infected. I did have the tooth removed today in pieces. So yeah, it's one of those days. But don't worry. Mike from the World's going to be here tonight. It's going to be an epic broadcast. 5 big questions for Mike from around the world. Let me tell you all about it in just a second. But first, let's put a shout out right now, if we could, for www.pastorpaulgold.com. That's www.pastorpaulgold.com. Experts are whispering. Citigroup analysts predict gold will soar to over $3,000 an ounce. Not in the next decade, folks. Not in a few years. In 2025. While others debate, smart money moves quickly. The signs flash bright as the Vegas billboards. Global uncertainty is growing. The dollar's strength is wavering. Gold's momentum is building. You feel it, don't you? The nagging voice saying, uh-oh, what does this all mean? For 2025, it means gold could hit $3,000 an ounce. Are you serious, guys? Are you serious? Something biblical is going on with the signs because gold is a biblical currency. Your neighbor asks, did you see it coming? You'll say, well, Pastor Begley told me it was coming. Don't hesitate, folks. Take the opportunity. Don't say maybe tomorrow or maybe next week. Move now. Go to www.pastorpaulgold.com or call them at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. And tell them Pastor Paul Begley sent you. If you do set up a gold or silver IRA, they're giving away 10 of these 1-ounce silver coins of the American Eagle coin. They'll give you 10 of these. They're 1 ounce of silver, or they'll give you a silver bar. So find out all about it. Go to pastorpaulgold.com. Yeah. So yeah, we got 5 big questions tonight for Mike from around the world. And, when you look at it's been crazy what's been going on the last few days, really. It's really has. It's been almost insane. The airplane that was shot out of the sky, the Russians did that, and they even admit they did that. Why? It's a question. That plane was headed toward one of the Chechen capital. There's been all kinds of things happening, of course. And as we speak, Heidi, do you have that app handy? Just before we came on the air, again, Israel under attack, missiles flying at Tel Aviv, lighting up the sky, sirens going off from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It's the Houthi rebels again. And I can't say much about this because they really are monitoring. They do not want us showing you this. Okay, hang on. Let me get the right angle here. Okay. Anyway, this is Israel, and this is tonight. This started about 20 minutes ago. Rockets again firing into Israel. It's the Houthis that are doing it. The Houthi rebels are the ones doing it. And it's just, here we go again. This is the 3rd night out of 4 that the Houthi rebels have been firing rockets into Israel. And so, yet, whenever I tried to talk about that a couple nights ago, I was on the air, I think, about 17 minutes when they just took me off the air and deleted my broadcast as if I never existed. took the archive and everything away. So the next time it happened, I only went on and showed you guys that for about a minute and a half, just to show you what was happening in Israel. And they and I got out of there before they pulled the plug on me. But I wanted to show it to you again. That's Israel. It's happening again tonight, basically almost in the same areas. The Houthis have got an ability to fire ballistic missiles all the way from Yemen to Tel Aviv. And so the war has shifted, apparently, from Israel fighting Hamas in Gaza to Israel fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and now Israel fighting the Houthi rebels out of Yemen. And, of course, Syria has collapsed, and then that only leaves, after we get done with the Houthis, I guess Iran. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Really, we really do. And we've got, like I said, the Russians have shot down an airplane. 38 passengers are dead. 29 survived miraculously. There's all kinds of other things that are happening right now. And so Heidi is going to be coming in here now to take over wherever she is for a while. And, of course, Mike from around the world is going to be joining us. I apologize. I'm just not. I'm under the weather big time. I did get this tooth, and I'll tell you something. I was in such pain the last 3 days that, and all day today, and even after this tooth is finally removed, it didn't go out easy. It went out in pieces. They chipped away and chipped and chipped and chipped. It took them an hour and 20 minutes to remove a tooth. They took it out in pieces, and actually, after I got home, I spit out one more piece. I hope they got it all. I really do, but I am not feeling well. I'll be back a little bit later. Let's let Heidi come in. I'm going to play a song, and she'll be here in just a moment, and I'll be back later. And Mike around the world will join us tonight.
God, I'm so scared for this crooked generation. Will you even find faith in the earth when you bring down revelation? Forgive us now the sins of our youth, worshiping the idols that knew everything but the truth. Teach us how to uncorrupt our minds. Show us now while we still have the time. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We abandon everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streams.
How much will we see before the fire falls? Lord, could this really be the last altar call? We need your blood. Anoint us with your fiery love as the praise and worship starts. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streets. Oh, we abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streets. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street.
All right, here we are. All right, Girl on a Swing is about how it is. You got it right. All right. Hello to everybody. Yes, Pastor Paul needs our prayers today. He's not been feeling good. He suffered with this all Christmas, bless his heart. So you can definitely send some prayers his way. Yeah, a lot of people are saying they know how you feel because they've been dealing with toothaches themselves. So definitely send some prayers his way. But tonight is Hanukkah, and so we're going to talk just a minute about the Hanukkah. And Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. Hanukkah, the word Hanukkah, actually means dedication. And you can find where Jesus celebrated Hanukkah in John 10:22. So I'm going to give you a minute. You can get your Bibles out, and we can go to John 10:22, and you can actually see where Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. It's called the Feast of Dedication in John 10:22. All right? So if everybody can go over there, we can take a look, and we can actually see where Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. 10:22, and it was at Jerusalem, so he was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. And then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long dost thou make us to doubt if thou be the Christ? Tell us plainly. So even on Hanukkah, Jesus was in the middle of a turmoil. The people were like, just tell us, are you the Christ, right? And Jesus answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep. As I said unto you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. So this was a conversation that Jesus was having with these people on the night of Hanukkah. And my Father are one. And the Jews took up stones again to stone him. And Jesus answered them, Many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me? And the Jews answered, saying to him, For a good work we stone thee, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God. And Jesus answered them, Is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? If ye called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken, say ye of him whom the Father hath sanctified and sent into the world, thou blasphemest, because I said, I am the Son of God. If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though ye believe not me, believe the works, that ye may know and believe that the Father is in me, and I in him. Therefore they sought again to take him, but he escaped out of their hand. Now, how did he escape out of their hand? And went away again beyond Jordan into the place where John at first baptized, and there he abode. And now you got to understand, he's in Jerusalem. He went away again beyond Jordan into the place where John at first baptized, and there he abode. Now, we've been to where John baptized him. That's quite a ways from Jerusalem. He escaped out of their hands. Is this a translation? You know, where Jesus translated? Somehow he escaped right out of their hands and ended up from one place into another place. And many resorted unto him and said, John did no miracle, but all things that John spake of this man were true. And many believed on him there. So this is on a night of Hanukkah, that the Feast of Dedication. And so you see what kind of a turmoil even Jesus had on a night of Hanukkah. So they're having the Hanukkah was birthed out of out of a miracle in the midst of a turmoil. The Maccabees, it's written in the book of Maccabees that they were in the midst of being seized, and the men in the temple had to make the oil last for 8 days. Now, the oil is changed every day, but they were seized upon for 8 days, and the oil lasted for 8 days. And that's why you have the 8 days of Hanukkah, is because it's a miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days in the temple. So that's what Hanukkah signifies. That's what Hanukkah is about. It's a time of miracles because of the miracle in the temple. Thank you, sweetheart. And so I do have this. Now, this is a Hanukkah. It is different than a menorah. What's different than the menorah? The menorah has 7. This has 9. That's the difference, because there's 8 candlesticks, and the 9th one is to light the 8 with. So it's a Hanukkah, not a menorah. Difference, okay? That's the difference, okay? Yeah, and this is kind of a special one. It's kind of a fancy one. There's all different kinds. This is mine, and I'm not lighting it tonight because I'm on air, and I don't want to set the whole place on fire, because it's probably what I would do. But anyways, so tonight is the second night, and people are lighting their Hanukkahs all over the world, and it's a very beautiful thing. But anyways, so that is how that came to be. It came to be out of the midst of trouble. You see, when Jesus, the recording of where Jesus was celebrating the dedication, which is the word that Hanukkah means, dedication. When you see the Feast of Dedication, John 10:22, Jesus was in the midst of a turmoil. So it's not unusual for Hanukkah to be in the midst of a turmoil, and for a miracle, Jesus was released out of the midst of these men that were contentious. That was a miracle. He was released out of their hands because they wanted to stone him. So that was a miracle, was it not? He was released out of the midst of their hands in the midst of a miracle, in the midst of turmoil. This is the way that this time of year seems to just turn out. So it's a time of miracles. So let me tell you what happened to me in the Hanukkah time. We were studying about the sacred incense. And just for instance, here, this is what I do. I study all these archaeological digs. That's the boring thing that I love to do. I love to dig in, and I love to study archaeological digs. Here's another archaeological dig I'm studying right now. And I literally get very deep into the studies of the archaeological digs, okay? And I was studying on the archaeological dig of where they had found the sacred incense. And when I actually was studying down into the dips of it, I found the names of some of the people that were on the archaeological dig, and that they were actually in Indiana. And so, if you're only hearing music, you must be on a loop. So, but when we were when I was reading it, I found the names of the people, and they were in Indiana. So when I looked, I thought to myself, could I just possibly find this person? And they don't want their names revealed. So I'm not gonna reveal their names. I've always kept their confidence. And sure enough, when I actually rang her up, it was a Hanukkah miracle. I knew it had to be a Hanukkah miracle. There was no way I could find her name just down into a piece of research like this, and then actually find her, just find her name, and just find her name and number. It was a Hanukkah miracle, and I knew it was. And she knew on the other side of the phone that it was Hanukkah. She knew it as well, and she knew. She just started crying, and she knew that she didn't ever want her name revealed, that she was the one who found it, the actual incense. She was the one who actually found the incense in the cave, and she knew that this was a miracle as well. So because of that, only because of that, because we established that it was a miracle that I was able to find her, she allowed Pastor Paul and I and our camera guy, Mike, to come and visit them in their home. And when we visited them in their home, then they told us the whole story. Thank you, babe. And the whole story was this, that they had went on the archaeological dig with the gentleman who was doing the dig, and they had just volunteered. You can volunteer on these archaeological digs in Israel all the time, because you literally can just dig and dig and dig in Israel for all day long. There's all kinds of digs going on, and you can volunteer to dig all you want, really. And so they were volunteers, but they were taught that if you ever see a difference in the colors when you start digging, that could be a sign that you're into something different, right? And so she started noticing a ring around the cave that they were in, and they were in the caves of Qumran. And so she started to notice that that the cave started making a ring around it. And so she also was taught that you can taste the dirt and see if it tasted differently. So she just tasted a little bit on her tongue, and it was cinnamon. Cinnamon just burst out on her tongue. Well, she knew that they were searching for the incense, the sacred incense, because there was the code on the copper scroll. And now I know that there's a lot of stories out there about the copper scroll and how that's been interpreted, but this is their story. So their story is that they had the wife of the gentleman on the dig was a Moroccan Jew, and that she was able to take a look at the scroll. And what they figured out with the copper scroll was that it was in two different codes. And one was that you had to cut it diagonally. You had to cut across it diagonally to take a look at it first. And then one was actually a map of the caves. And then the other was, and it was almost poetic. It is poetic. Then you take it poetically, line by line, and try to figure out poetically, what does that mean? And it will tell you line by line what's in the caves. So one makes out a map of the cave complex, because there's a lot of caves in the Qumran. And then the next takes it line by line, and you try to figure out poetically, on top of that, what is it trying to tell you is hidden in the caves. And what's supposed to be hidden in the caves is that they took the tabernacle down quickly when in about the year 70 A.D. when they knew that they were going to be overtaken, and that they hid the pieces of the tabernacle all in the Qumran Caves complex. And so that's what they were looking for. They were looking for the incense. And so because they knew from the code on the copper scrolls that they should be in the right spot. And so sure enough, when she tasted cinnamon, she knew that that cinnamon was one of the ingredients of the sacred incense. It's actually 3 of the ingredients because it's 3 pieces of the cinnamon. It's like the bark, the leaf, and maybe the oil. I can't remember, but it's actually three different pieces of the cinnamon is part of the sacred incense ingredients. So cinnamon is definitely part of it, and so she was able to identify it immediately, and she was so excited. So, anyways, when they got done excavating it, it was something like, I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me, but it was something like 1,200 or 1,500 pounds of the sacred incense. And when they were during the dig, they found a coin in it, and I can't remember, was it exactly 70 A.D., darling, or it was 69 or something like that? It was something around 70 A.D. that they had thrown a coin in it so that it would be timed correctly when somebody would dig it up. So they found that coin in it. So they knew that they were of that time period as well. So it was just an amazing thing. And so they sat down and they gave us the whole story, the whole version of the story. And it was very, very amazing. And like I said, all of this came about because of the Hanukkah miracle of how I was able to find this lady's name in the midst of one of those many archaeological things that I read, just because I'm a little crazy like that. And then I was able to, God just was able to lead me to her. And after we got done talking about all of this, and they got a level of trust with us, then the leader of the group, one of the gentlemen of the group, went back into his room, and he brought out, you ever see a ship in a bottle? It was a bottle about that size, and he held it sideways like you would a ship in a bottle. But when he brought it out, it was full of the incense, and he shook it up a little bit. And when he shook it up a little bit, it became iridescent. It was amazing. It was actually some of the sacred incense that he was allowed to keep. Now, you're not allowed to use it. You're not allowed to use it at all. It's forbidden. But he was allowed from the rabbis because they did take it to the university and they had it tested, which that's the study that I was reading, because it was all tested out chemically. They knew exactly what all the chemical compounds were in it. But they were allowed by the rabbis to use it for rabbinical teachings, so you can use it for teaching purposes only. And so then, and I'm ever so grateful, he gave me a little bit of it. And so here I have some of the actual sacred incense that I'm allowed to have for teaching. And so I'm very, very thankful for that. So sometimes we share that when we go on the road some places. So it's very, very, it's just, that's my Hanukkah miracle, and it's very sweet for me. So there you go. So what can you say? I mean, that's a Hanukkah miracle. There's no way that you could ever come around to that. In the university study that I was reading, when they opened it up, there was just this amazing odor that filled the whole room. It filled it for like 30 days. And then there was never another, they said there was never any bugs at all that came for like 30 days. Like there was never a fly, anything. Nothing came in that room for another 30 days afterwards. And it was just like really amazing, um, you know, atmosphere that was in the room just while they were studying and opening up this incense that was in the room. It was quite interesting. So, so that's my Hanukkah story for you today. All right. Unfortunately, there's also Hanukkah stories going on in Israel, as Pastor was sharing with you. There is definitely some things going on with the Houthis and Prime Minister Netanyahu. So a Houthi drone crashes in the south as the terror group said it's bracing for a major Israeli attack. So the aircraft falls into an open area near Ashkelon. The Saudi news site says that Houthis are moving assets, troops to combat readiness as Israeli leaders threaten increased strikes on Yemen. And sure enough, that's what happened today. The Houthis quickly took responsibility for the attack, claiming to have launched 2 drones, one at a vital and sensitive target in the Tel Aviv area and another at Ashkelon's industrial zone. There were no reports of injuries or major damage in the attack as sirens sounded in Ashkelon and some Gaza border communities. Now, that was earlier today, and as Pastor showed you, there was some things that happened right before we came on the air. There were no reports of impacts in the Tel Aviv area. The attack came as Houthis reportedly raised their alert level in anticipation of major Israeli retaliatory strikes. So, sure enough, I'm looking for the report, but sure enough, there was retaliatory strikes. So the former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, in a visit to the Ramat Gan school destroyed by a Houthi missile last week, urged Israel and the U.S. to work together against the Houthis, saying that it would pave the way for joint action against Iran. So, but they did strike the Houthis today in Sana'a and Hudaydah. I think I said that right. They did do a Houthi strike today. I'm looking for it. Here it is. Israel strikes Yemen during Houthi leader's speech. So he did it at a certain timing. Israeli airstrikes are hitting Sana'a International Airport and Yemeni ports. The strikes came as Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi was giving a televised speech. According to Israeli national news, Israeli targets included the port of Hudaydah, the power plant in Haziz, south of the capital. Israeli officials have not commented yet, but Sky News quoted an Israeli figure confirming the attack. On Wednesday, while lighting the candle for the first night of Hanukkah, Prime Minister Netanyahu said, "We light the first candle of Hanukkah to commemorate the victory of the Maccabees of the time and the victory of the Maccabees of today," Netanyahu said, "as then we strike blows at the oppressors and those who thought they would cut the thread of our lives here. So this will apply to everyone. The Houthis will also learn that Hamas and Hezbollah and the Assad regime and others learn, and even if it takes time, this lesson will be learned throughout the Middle East. I tell you, in those days, at this time," he added, referencing Hanukkah liturgy, "Israel air defenses intercepted a ballistic missile fired by Yemen's Houthis in the early hours of Wednesday morning. The second night in a row, residents of Tel Aviv were forced to take shelter. The Israel Defense Forces said the missile was shot down before it reached Israeli airspace. Magen David Adam responders said that they had treated 9 people for injuries suffered while making their way to protected spaces and 2 others for panic attack. The missiles was the 4th fired by the Iran-backed Houthis in a week. It will be the 5th, seeing what we saw this evening. On Tuesday, Defense Minister Israel Katz threatened the assassination of Houthi leaders. Just as we took care of Sinwar in Gaza, Hania in Tehran, and Nasrallah in Beirut. We will deal with the heads of the Houthis in Sana'a or anywhere in Yemen, he said. We are honored to thank the young men and women of the IDF who risk their lives every day to defend the citizens of Israel. And if you got my email, we have asked you for prayers for Pastor Paul. We have asked you for prayers for our Pastor Israel and Bishop Sam. So, several of our ministers are not feeling well. So that shows you that we're under a spiritual attack. I've asked you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. So there you go. That's a spiritual attack. There's attack on many sides. So we're asking you for make sure that you are praying these prayers and getting them through, right? All right. We also have a lot of weather going on. What is going on? They said there was a tornado watch issued and 5,000 flights delayed as winter storms battered the U.S. with severe winter storms impacting travel during the busiest times of the year. It sounds like a lot of that was going on in Texas. Are you guys, some of you guys here in Texas, were you guys having tornadoes carrying on down there? The FAA ordered ground stops at 2 Texas airports after storms triggered flash flood warnings and a tornado watch. The ground stops at Dallas-Fort Worth and Dallas-Love were lifted at 1 p.m. Travelers scrambled to get new flights. 9 million people remained under the Storm Prediction Center's tornado watch in southeastern Texas and east central Louisiana. All modes of severe weather are on the table, including hail. Did you guys have hail down there in Texas too? Said you had pea-sized hail, high winds, isolated tornadoes. Then you had in the Pacific Northwest, you had an atmospheric river. Again, how many atmospheric rivers are you going to have out of the Pacific Northwest? Oregon, Washington, 2.5 feet of drifts you're going to get in the Cascade Mountains on Thursday, which is today, right? So 2 states plus Utah, Wyoming, and Idaho are all under winter storm warnings after an atmospheric river hit the Pacific Northwest. California had 30-foot waves batter the California coast. Huge 30-foot waves hit on, I think this was Tuesday. At least 1 person died and 2 are still missing after storms and a big ocean swell created dangerous ocean conditions this week. Storm debris was blamed for the death of a man on a beach in Watsonville, Santa Cruz on Tuesday. Today, the Coast Guard suspended a search for 2 men who went missing during a fishing trip off the coast of Palo Verdes on Tuesday. Wreckage of their boat was found later that day. And on Monday, a 150-foot section of the Santa Cruz Wharf collapsed while being hit by high waves. So Californians were warned to stay out of the water, off jetties, off piers. High surf advisory was in effect. What was going on over there in California? And then I also heard in Hawaii the same thing. They were having up to 50 and 60-foot waves all up on the north sides of several of the islands, including Oahu, where my aunt lives. You know, my uncle passed away, but my aunt is still there in the North Shore. And there was supposed to be 50 and 60-foot waves up there on the northern ends. So it was just kind of crazy what's going on in all of these waves and rivers going on and all of these kind of things happening. So I don't know what is going on with you guys, but we're going to try to keep it on the down low is all I got to tell you. So maybe it has to do with the sun, you know? They had a big wave event, David R. is telling me. I know he keeps track of Hawaii with me. I think he has family there too, or he's pretty tied up with there. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy weather. Maybe it has to do with what's going on with the sun. Waves of energy, Vapor says. That's a good question. Maybe when we get Mike on tonight, we'll ask him. Maybe it has to do with that. But, and we go to spaceweather.com, they said that a CME that was expected to hit the Earth on Christmas did not hit, but they're wondering either the CME missed or it's moving more slowly than expected. And a tardy arrival on December 26th could spark a minor G1 class geomagnetic storm. There is high solar activity, and the sun is crackling with solar flares. So they witnessed 4 M-class events within a 2.5-hour period today on December 26th. Hey, by the way, December 26th is my grandson Drake's birthday. He's 18 years old, so you guys can do a shout out for Drake. You know, I have all kinds of birthdays in December. It's kind of crazy. We have all kinds of Christmas birthdays. So Drake today is 18 years old. Yesterday on Christmas Day, I gave birth to my youngest son, Paul Andrew. He was a Christmas baby. He was my best Christmas present ever. So Paul Andrew was actually born on Christmas Day 36 years ago, yesterday. So Paul Andrew was my Christmas baby. And of course, Pastor Paul himself was a winter solstice baby. He was born on December 21st. So those are all of them, but also my great-grandfather was a Christmas baby. My Russian great-grandfather, he was a Christmas baby. Of course, he's long been gone. And then my grandmother was my Russian grandmother. She was December 26th, so this was her birthday too. So, wow, I don't know. How old would she be? I think, I'm not sure what year she was born. So I'm not quite sure how old she would be, but she'd be up there. So anyways, today was her birthday as well. And so Drake and her shared a birthday. So we have all kinds of birthdays going on. So there you go. Anyways, let's go back to the sun and see what the sun's up to. So we have high solar activity. The sun is crackling, and we have 4 M-class events within a 2.5-hour period on December 26th. Crazy, huh? So sunspots 3933, 3936, and 3938 are all participating, but not independently. So listen to this. I thought this was interesting. These are sympathetic solar flares, one triggering another, then another in a chain reaction. Sometimes this happens when widely spaced sunspots are connected by invisible loops of magnetism threading through the sun's high atmosphere. Isn't that cool? The 4 flare, I think it's cool, but it's probably kind of a dangerous thing. So if you remember back just like, was it last year or the year before? If we had 4 M-class flares, we'd be like, what is going on, right? We wouldn't be like, isn't that cool? We had 4 flares today, 4 M-class flares. Now it's like, oh, yeah, well, we're in this ultra-high period of the sun, and we were having 4 M-class flares. We just didn't have 2 X-class flares today. Think about that, right? We were just an M-class flare would be like, wow, we had an M-class flare, right? And that would just be like once every 6 months, right? But now it's like, oh, we just had 4 M-class flares today. Maybe at least we didn't reach an X. Think about that. Think about how we're thinking nowadays, right? Right? We just have no idea what's really going on. Yes, you got it right. Fist bump. The reality is that is very dangerous stuff going on, right? Right. It is a reality. It's like I say, I love the auroras, but that's not a good thing, right? Right. God is cool and dangerous. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, it's a thing. It's our sun is getting irritated. And why is our sun getting irritated? Are we asking the right questions? Are we asking the right questions here? Why is our sun getting irritated, right? So why is our sun having 4 M-class flares. Pastor Paul is sick, but Mike will be on tonight, and Pastor Paul will be in and out. All right, he's got a bad toothache, but he's going to be in and out because he's my wingman. All right. So that being said, we still have these near-Earth asteroids, 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids. All right, crazy, right? That number just keeps going up and up and up. So it just keeps going up and up and up. Let's see, what is today? Today is the 26th. On the 25th, we had an asteroid go by 0.3 lunar distances, and it was 3 meters in diameter. So that was a scrape by, right? But we're still here. All right. RoboMom, do you know how many salvations to date? When you must not be on the email, all right? Because in the email I told you today, it was 1900 and I want to say 78. So 1978 to date, because we're trying. We will hope to get over the 2,000 mark for the year. And we are over the 14,000 mark from the time that we've been documenting. I mean, there's no way we could know every person who has ever said, I want to be saved. But from what we've documented, that's the best that we can do. All right. Yeah. If you don't get emails, yes, reach out to Miss CD and we can put you on the email list. All right. But yes, we put it in the email today. All right. So there you go. Okay. So we're going to be asking some questions of Mike from around the world. Let's see. What time is it? I'm not good with time. Okay. He'll be coming on here in a little bit. All right. One other thing. Investigation into the deadly Azerbaijan plane crash begins. Here's what we know so far. All right, so this was pretty crazy stuff, wasn't it? There's always this controversial plane crash seems like going on. So here's what we know so far. This is sad. This is very sad. But this plane, Thursday, it's an official day of mourning in Azerbaijan, with an investigation is underway to determine what caused an airplane carrying 67 passengers to crash on Christmas Day in Kazakhstan, killing 38 and leaving at least 29 survivors. All right. Here's what we do know. The passengers on the Azerbaijan Airlines Embraer operated by Flight 190 included 37 Azerbaijani nationals, 16 Russians, 6 Kazakh citizens, and 3 Kyrgyz? I'm not sure how to say that. Nationals. According to the New York Times, the flight was heading from Azerbaijan capital Baku to the Russian city of Grozny, where the crash occurred. Now, it's of note that Grozny is the capital of Chechnya, so the Chechen capital, right? The plane crashed while trying to make an emergency landing at the Aktau airport in Kazakhstan. Among the 29 survivors were 2 children. Sorry, although I did see that an updated thing said there are 4 minors in all. A couple of those were teenagers. Footage of the rubble published by the Russian state news outlet shows some passengers lying on the ground and others being able to walk away from the debris. Some mobile phone footage shows passengers pulling each other out of the wreckage. Immediately, they did not know the cause of the crash, although I'm trying to find which thing I did. On Thursday, they reported the plane was shot down accidentally by a Russian air defense system. They do know now that it was. I'm trying to find the better article I had on this. According to sources, here we go. The missile was fired fired at Flight 8432 during the drone air activity above Grozny, and the shrapnel hit the passengers and cabin crew as it exploded next to the aircraft mid-flight. The government sources have told Euronews that the damaged aircraft was not allowed to land at any Russian airports. Despite the pilot's request for emergency landing, and it was ordered to fly across the Caspian Sea towards Aktau in Kazakhstan. According to data, the plane's GPS navigation systems were jammed throughout the flight path above the sea. So it was definitely not an accident, and it was not helpful. They were not helped. They jammed their GPS. They definitely hit them with a drone, and doesn't sound good at all. Now, why did they do that? Don't know yet. So I always feel like when something like this happens, it's important to know who is on that flight manifest. And again, we're going. The other big thing is that we're going to Grozny, which is the Chechen capital. Chechnya is always not a very good area, right? The Chechens are always, that's a rough area, right? And so there's a question. Why are we going to Grozny? Who's going to Grozny? So there you go. But who is on the flight manifest? That is always the question. Who is on the flight manifest? So I did find already a list of the survivors, and I started looking them up. So that's a little interesting. Not really anything real interesting yet. But that was I have found a list of the survivors. I haven't found a list of who has not survived yet. So we'll just keep looking. We'll just keep seeking that out and keep asking the right questions or the wrong questions, but we'll see if we can figure it out. Comfort for the families of the crash victims and salvation for those. That's a good prayer request there. Thank you so much. So, yeah. So Russia, that's one of the questions we have here for Mike. If you got our email, again, if you're not on the email list, you might want to get on the email list because you're ahead of the crowd then if you got onto the email list, right? 5 questions for Mike from around the world, all right? Are you ready? HVT was on the plane. HVT, you'll have to help me out there. So 5 questions for Mike from around the world. 1, Mideast madness or a masterpiece, right? 2, Russia, what lies the fate of Russia? This is part of the questioning, right? 3, darkness versus light. What do you foresee in this realm? I'm telling you, we're definitely just marching right into, we are so much into the darkness versus light. We've seen it with the whole, this whole, what do you call it? Election year that we just came through. But see, that's the thing. We haven't come through. Pastor Paul and Troy Anderson, they've been doing this whole thing about, it started with 44 days of prayer that they were praying. And then, then we've got finally the election. They were praying on up until the election. Then we got the election through. And so then they were like, okay, well, but we don't have it till inauguration. So now they're on praying through till the inauguration. I don't know which day we're on right now, but you can follow that on Revelation Watchers. I probably should have put a link of that into our newsletter. I'll do that again, but there is a newsletter called Revelation Watchers that Pastor Paul and Troy do all the time together. And again, you can just go to Revelation Watchers, I think it's .com, and you can sign up for that and keep a track of that. Any interviews that Pastor Paul or Troy do during the week, because a lot of times there's interviews that they do during the week on Revelation 9:11, or it doesn't even have to be Revelation 9:11. It could be anything that they do during the week, like Pastor Paul just did one not long ago with para abnormal, I think it's called. He just did one with, I think the young man's name is Jeremy from there. I mean, so any interviews he just does during the week, he does one with Eric Gajewski monthly. He does one with him. He just did that a couple weeks ago. Any of these extra interviews, a lot of times they're talked about in the Revelation Watchers. So you really should sign up to revelationwatchers.com. Then you can see all this extra things that are going on all week long, with Pastor Paul. So it's always kind of doing other things, right? All right. Will we see another great plague? Will we see another great plague? The Lord really put upon me last time that we came through the whole last plague, for us to get more healthy, because the two main comorbidities that were a factor in the last plague were if you were overweight or if you had diabetes. That was really those comorbidities that had a big difference on your outcomes about if you were going to make it through the last plague, which I'm being careful what I'm saying here, or not, okay? And so the Lord put it upon me and said, you really need to try to tell people to help them to be more healthy. And so I started like the Passion Project, told people, that I had been working on my health and my losing weight, and the struggle is real. It's not easy. It's not easy to lose weight, right? But it's possible, and that we need to work on it, because what if the next thing hits? We need to be at least working on ourselves to try to keep ourselves healthy, right? And so that if the next thing hits, at least we're working on keeping healthy and trying to get out of that comorbidity state, right? Trying not to be overweight, trying not to have diabetes on our plate or high blood pressure on our plate or any of these other things on our plate. At least we're working away from that, right? And trying to stay healthy and trying to keep ourselves built up so that if the next thing hits, the next thing comes our way, at least we're trying to stay healthy, right? So I've got my own YouTube and all of that I'm working on health-wise as far as that goes. So that's definitely something we want to do. But will we see another great plague? I'm hearing a lot of chatter in the background that may definitely be a possibility. Climate challenges. We just got done talking about all of these waves, these huge waves hitting all over the place. Mike keeps talking to us about a water event. How many atmospheric rivers are going to keep happening from the Pacific Northwest? Is this a pattern now that it's going to keep happening? Are we in a pattern, something like that? I don't know. So what's going on? Is there something going on that way? And what are the climate challenges are we doing? We just got done coming out of all those fires with Malibu on fire, California, several California fires were going on. And then now we've got tornadoes in Dallas and pea-sized hail, and it's Christmas. Is this the usual? So, what do we got going on there? So these are definitely questions that we want to pick up again with Mike. And like I said, if you guys had your emails, you would have your own list, right? Because it's all in your email. I got it in your email, right? So if you're not on the email list, go ahead and put yourself, send your emails to misszd01@hotmail.com, misszd01@hotmail.com, all right? So that you can get on the email list and that you already have your list in front of you, right? Ready for Mike from around the world, all right? All right, yeah, so a lot of you guys are talking about how you're working on your health, all right? So that's good, all right? Yes, definitely try to stop smoking, anything like that. Is definitely anything that you can do. You have major fires in Australia. Okay, I did not know that. That's good to hear. So that's the other thing is suppressed news. We definitely are not getting the news as easily as it was. Okay, so yeah, I did not see anything about fires in Australia. So it's good that you are telling me that here because it is not land mass rising off the North Carolina coastline. All right, we'll have to ask about that. So Mike is coming on at 10:15. Okay, like he always does. Mike will be here at 10:15. Let me write this down about North Carolina. So North Carolina coastline, and then there's fires in Australia that I didn't know about. And Selena wants to know about radiation. Definitely. All right. Jesus Freak lost 20 pounds this year. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Yes, I have been uh, um, warned that perhaps we need to be ready to have medicine on hand in case radiation levels go higher. So as well. So that's a good question about the radiation too. Yes, yes. Missing children. It doesn't. It doesn't. Does that boggle your mind when they say oh, the immigration that they've lost all these children? It's like how do you just say we've lost all these children? So it doesn't make any sense, right? Right. All right. And MC lost 45 pounds. All right. That's doing great. So we do have some people working on your health. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yes, kudos, kudos, kudos. Kudos and drones over your head. All right. Drones over your head. So the last that I heard, supposedly they put out an education on the drones. And since they have, people have now realized that the drones that they're seeing are really just usual drones, let's put it that way. And most of the drones that they're seeing are no worries, right? Right? Okay. So the reports of the drones are not as high as they were. Yep. That's what they tell us, okay? Just telling you what they're telling us. All right. Oh, eggs. Eggs. Yes. Apparently, there's a recall on eggs. And I didn't realize that because I went to the store specifically. I wanted to get eggs. I wanted to get milk and I wanted to get eggs, right? And eggs already, every time I turn around to go get eggs, I mean, do they raise it $1 a week or what? I mean, every time I go to get eggs, they're just more expensive. But all right, Delane lost 46 pounds. All right, good job. But so I went to go get eggs, and I was like, "Where are all the eggs?" And I'm like, "Everybody make devil eggs for Christmas or what? What's going on here?" All right, and so I was like, and there are some eggs, but they're not the eggs I buy. Okay, like I try to buy organic eggs, which that's why I'm saying they keep going up and up and up. And luckily at Freedom Fellowship we have our own chickens, so we can get eggs at Freedom Fellowship. But I try to leave that for everybody else. You know, I don't want to be hogging all the eggs, right? so but I may have to get the eggs from the chickens, right? So I was like, where are all the eggs at? And so anyways, I got back here and I find out there's an egg recall. Did you see that? Somebody just put that up here, bird flu. Apparently there's a huge egg recall. And so what is going on? So there's a huge egg recall, and apparently that's where all the organic and pasture raised and all of these kind of eggs went to. And so apparently, you know, you can't get, you know, just like they worked on the dairy farms and spill out all the, remember when they were spilling out all the milk at the dairy farms? So 20 million eggs, is that what it is? I just barely heard it at the end. And I was like, that's where all the eggs went. So I know they keep talking about the bird flu, So I don't know if that's what it is, but I seen that they were took all the eggs off the shelves, and I was like, oh my goodness, where are all the eggs? So so anyways, all the eggs seem to be gone. So I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do about the eggs. So there you go, potato salad with eggs. Eggs are going underground. Yep. The eggs may be going underground. So good. It's a good thing that, like I said, at Freedom Fellowship, we have our own chickens. So there you go. Escape from New York. That's a good one. I like that. Escape from New York. So food is getting to be harder and harder to get. So, they keep wanting us not to have milk, and they keep wanting us not to have eggs. They don't want us to have beef, all of this kind of stuff is just getting to be ridiculous. Eggs are expensive anyways. Yeah, that's usually the first thing they do is they try to expense you out of being able to eat whatever it is they want you to eat. And then the next thing you know is then they'll tell you there's something horrible going on with whatever. So yeah, all the eggs are gone, believe me. I thought, well, everybody had eggs for Christmas and nobody came back to deliver. But no, really, they took all the eggs. They stole all the eggs. So anyways, the Easter Bunny's hoarding all the eggs, yes. The eggs are gone. Let me tell you, the eggs are gone. You go to the store, you'll see the eggs are gone. Egg and plenty. Yep. All right. So I don't know. What's the next thing they're going to take? I don't know. So I don't know. If you don't have eggs, then how are you going to cook anything? I mean, eggs are in almost everything. So, and that's the plan. Yep, that's the plan. So, yes, shop at the farmer's market. That's where we need to go. Which medicine is for the radiation? Yes. Well, there you go. Yeah, beef is next. Beef has already been next. I mean, like it's cost like $20 a steak. I mean, they've already cost most people out of actually, and bacon costs ridiculous amounts. So most people can't have bacon. I mean, it just $17 in California. So there you go. But a lot of people don't eat pork anyways. So there you go. There, somebody just put up the medicine for radiation. So see. We have each other, so we can help each other. How about that? We have each other, we can help each other. All right? Underwear will be unobtainable. There you go. Well, you know what the first thing was when they cracked down on us last time? The first thing was they took away the toilet paper. Remember that? Remember? You couldn't even get toilet paper, remember? Okay? And that was so you couldn't cover your fill in the blank, right? All right. It was kind of like, I think that was totally purposeful, right? All right. So they took away our toilet paper first thing. All right. Come on. All right. So there you go. Now we still have plenty of toilet paper. Okay. Right. There you go. All right. So, all right. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think panic buying? No, there's no sense in panic buying, right? There's no sense in panic buying, but there is wisdom buying. How about that? There's no sense in panic buying, but there is wisdom buying. Like, you should have enough, even FEMA tells you that you should have enough, like I think their recommendation is 3 months worth of things like I have to have protein bars anyways because my sugar falls. So, but protein bars is a good thing to have on hand because they're good shelf life and they're protein, right? So protein bar is always a good thing to have on hand, right? Peanut butter is always a good thing to have on hand, although Mike tells you that it has full of spiders. If you can deal with that, peanut butter is a good thing to have on hand, right? And stuff like that. So the orbs are stealing the eggs. You guys are all on this, all right? You're all over this egg thing. Okay. So the Lord knew what he said what he meant when he said pray and fast. There you go. Some of us can deal with fasting, all right? All right. Dr. Kim has powdered peanut butter. Yep. All right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't see any sense of panic buying, but I do see a sense of wisdom buying. All right. And so we should have some things like that, some things that are shelf sustainable, and then you also have to think about things not getting wet. Like think about what everybody's went through in North Carolina, where they didn't expect to have a hurricane in the middle of North Carolina, and where they didn't expect for mountains to slide down in the middle of North Carolina. And think about that, all right? And so I know we have people from our online church who are still helping people in North Carolina. And so that's what you have to think about, what you would do in an emergency like that. Is Mike getting ready to come on? Pastor's here, help him getting ready for a mic. 4 more minutes. Okay. So he's setting up the telephone. Rice and beans. Yes, rice and beans are always a good shelf stable thing. Powder eggs, I don't think I can do. I just don't think I could do powder eggs. I don't know. Maybe they're okay. I don't know. What do you think? Could you do powder eggs, babe? No. Yeah. Did you see that? The eggs have all been recalled.
I saw that. I was making comments about egglicious.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Egg apocalypse.
Yeah. It is. So it's an egg apocalypse. So it's bad. So anyways.
How do you recall an egg? Before it's scrambled?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, beans. You could always have beans though. Beans are good for you. All kinds of beans are good for you. Sardines and tuna, very good. Those are also real good things to have on a shelf life too. So those are good things. So yeah, see, we can do this. We can have things on things. And honey is good. Yeah, honey is also good for you. Yeah, honey has a good shelf life. Yes, watch the mercury in tuna. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we can always have some immune support. We have immune support, and oh my goodness, and these are always good for your throat. So we have all of this, but I love this. Okay, this is good. This is the nasal spray. Like when you go out, even shopping. So when I go shopping, I'm just with my hands all the time. But this is nasal spray though. So it's good like if you have to go to the hospital, like I have to go to the hospital to take, Nanny and Pep off for their test and this and that. Anytime you have to go to the doctor's office or hospital or something, just prepare, And, but I want that one. You give me everything but what I want. And so I want this one. This is what nurses love. This is wound gel, and this is good for any kind of wound. So
this is good for my arthritis.
Pastor wants this for his joints, and muscles. So
that's good.
He likes it for his muscles and joints. Yes. Yes. We're fighting over which silver we like the best. My favorite. Is that your favorite? No. Which is your favorite? That's Pastor's favorite. This is my favorite. Hands down. I've had lots of wounds that I've used that with. So, although the nasal spray, if you have to go on the plane, if you have to go in a doctor's office, if you have to go shopping. You should see Pastor. You would be laughing. But anyways, poor Pastor, though. He's had to deal with this tooth. It's just been horrible for him. And so, yeah, he's his poor little jaw has become a big jaw. And so, see, what does the devil want to do? Take the man's mouth away from him. He's got the mouth from the south, right? And so there you go. The devil wants to take his mouth away from him. Oh my goodness. So, huh? No, I thought you said something. So, so what? That is the worst thing in the world. You can pull the tooth for him. We must have a dentist here.
I'm down to 1 cup.
Yes. Everybody told us about clove oil, and we didn't have anywheres over Christmas. So, no clove oil. Anyways, poor pastor. But pray for him so he can get talking again. Are you serious? Is right. That's the worst thing you could do to a preacher is mess with his mouth. So, anyways, I don't know. Yep. So, anyways, Mike will be here, and we'll be asking him these 5 questions for 2025. 5 questions for 2025. Can you believe it's going to be 2025? It's here already. 2025. Pastor says on Sunday night he will be giving his 2025 apocalyptic points. 2025 apocalyptic points. 2025. Oh, all right. So you don't want to miss Sunday night for sure. I wonder where Mike is. He's late. He's late for a very important date. Cloves in the spice rack. All right. Yes. Try and rinse with salt water, Pastor, they're telling you. Mm-hmm. You just turned on, Pastor Paul has a bad tooth. Aha. Hello?
Sister Heidi.
Yes. Hello, Mike. How are you?
God bless you. I'm doing okay.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, Pastor Paul has a bad tooth, and so you've got me instead.
Oh, we're good to go. Well, I hope Pastor Paul gets better.
Yes. Mm-hmm. How are you today?
Well, I'm here. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
You're doing good?
Doing good.
How's the world doing?
Not so good.
Not so good, huh?
It's degrading.
Mm-hmm.
It's well, it does seem like things are escalating
Yeah.
all over the place.
Well, where do you want to start?
Anywhere you want to start.
Okay. Did you find the 5 questions?
I think I did. I took a glance over those.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Well, you want to start in the Mideast?
Well,
then?
we can go to the Mideast right now.
Okay.
I know that Israel is really in a fight, and it's starting to escalate beyond the boundaries of Israel naturally. And another U.S. fighter was engaged. That makes number 4 in the Middle East. So as you can see, this is escalating beyond the borders of Israel naturally.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have, if the escalation trend continues, we'll likely have greater deployments coming up, which is not at a good time because we still have domestic issues within the USA.
Mm-hmm.
What's coming up within this country is going to put a strain on our forces, big time in the Middle East. It's not going to be an easy transition. Israel has of course, they're always in a fight for their lives, but you have these allied countries who are making their moves They continue to probe. They're starting to, they're really hitting Israel on every side, and they're going to continue to do so until, they can absolutely coordinate, take around. One of the issues I see is the alliance in the Middle East against Israel has grown big time. It's really expanded. They're starting to use more sophisticated tactics to get through any of Israel's defenses. And of course, they're gonna continue to do this until the hope for them is that somehow they can start what they want to start prior to Trump's inauguration. They don't want him in office. They do not.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want him in office, and that problem this time is within the USA too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an ongoing issue that will eventually spread beyond the Middle East
Mm-hmm.
into other countries.
Yeah. So, what do you mean by the fourth fighter, U.S. fighter?
We've had we've had some issues with some U.S. fighters that were attacked. I guess you could say targeted
Mm-hmm.
in the Middle East, and in so many are calling it a huge escalation even right now. Uh, this war is expanding, and there are really no guarantees as far as containment or de-escalation. Of course, the Pope has. And remember, a few weeks ago we talked. I was saying something about the Pope. He always makes his, when he makes his entry, his word is a final word of approval for operations for the world. Well, he spoke. He has spoken about Russia, the Ukraine, and the Middle East, and Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And so plans will go forward now. They really will go forward. Once he speaks, for some reason, they begin to act um, pretty violently, expediently, you could say, against whatever they're doing. In this case, he was speaking about peace in the Middle East, but he was speaking in a strange way, peace by eliminating, or incarcerating certain individuals. That's not very clear at this point, but I believe that we're going to see a total change in the Middle East almost immediately. And so I would expect large scale escalations in several areas. So I hope everybody is ready because it's not an easy thing to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. They keep going with the ballistic missiles from Yemen, so it's like, how many times can they keep doing that?
Right. And then, of course, I believe they're having naval rearrangements. The bigger missiles and munitions will likely be used. I'd say probably at the new year, at the mark of the new year, we'll see a different type of tactic being used. Israel won't continue to uh, hit miss, so to speak, the small scale operations. They they have determined they want to end the hostilities. In order to do that, that takes a really large bombardment of whatever their targets are. In this case, Iran directly, um, and that's going to really open up a hornet's nest. It's not going to be as easy as people think, and I do believe some of that Middle Eastern action is tied to some of the what people are observing uh, throughout the U.S. But not necessarily the drone situation, because that's a very confusing situation. It's a combination of things people are saying. I think that most people are just taking notice of the skies a bit more than usual due to the Pentagon and Congress, of course, and their latest hearings, right? People are starting to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you go back and look at some of the sightings that were taking place in the skies, they've always been like that. It's just that people don't look up. Now they're starting to look up, and they're beginning to notice what they can't identify. So, but it's always been like that. We may have small escalations, and people are starting to track down some very weird things. And there are groups that operate such things within the USA. Well, actually abroad. Um, and this is a rumor. In about 30 days, it is said that two of the speakers for some of these groups are coming forward to inform the public of what they've been doing for the last 28 years. So we'll see in that arena. In other words, we have some shady operations happening all over the world that people are not, they're just not briefed on. They don't know about. And they are part of a power structure within a power structure. For example, when ex-military personnel get out of special ops or something like that, normally they do not transition into civilian life just without connections. They normally float into uh, different operations that are off the books, so to speak. And so some of these guys are coming forward officially uh, to inform the public of what's been happening, of what they've been working on, what they've been doing. I believe that's part of the struggle between the Trump government and the other government. So things like that will also be taking place, which is not good at wartime. The Middle Eastern factions will take full advantage of any American divide and divisions among the people. They will. They're going to take full advantage of it. I sincerely hope people are prepared to really see what war is about, but in a very cruel way. I hope that people are ready to see that.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's ever ready to see war, period.
No,
Mhm.
no one wants to see it, that's for sure. But
Mhm.
sometimes we forget that we have been protected all this time. Things have been held back. The Lord's grace has been over us all this time.
Mhm.
We're so used to it, we think it's normal. It's not normal.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, things not blowing up in America close to our homes and this, that, and the other. That's not normal. That's grace. And I think that sometimes we've been, well, for a long time, we've enjoyed grace and mercy. For so long, we think we're owed grace and mercy. We think that the environment is that's how it's supposed to be. But historically, when you start looking back, that's not the way it was. And many things have been held back. Many things. We're just extremely blessed to have not, literally been set on fire yet. But that time, uh, I'd say, given the people's disposition of faith and a lot of wickedness, especially with the children, that continues to escalate, uh, we're going to have examples of what it is possibly not to have mercy in certain areas. People will begin to endure what they thought they would not, because you know the Lord has been kind and merciful, but He will not. This evil, some of these hidden evils that people have become so accustomed to, used to, where they can't see it. He won't suffer that always, and we're going to begin to see that. It seems to come in cycles. This is going to be one of the larger ones.
Mhm.
We've had world wars, and it's gone to other lands, and it's devastated countries. America's been blessed, severely blessed. Um, but even the elections give us a glean into the some of the less resolvent nature of Americans. We have a divided community, you could say, and we have a lot of immoral activities taking place in this country, more than usual.
Mhm.
and it comes with a consequence. And so we'll see a part of that. Normally, repentance follows, and people begin to really take inventory of how good they really had it. Then they begin to see, what they took for granted. But this entitlement mentality that we so quickly adopt as though we're due, you know, peaceful day after peaceful day. And we almost seem like we're owed that without thinking about the Most High. And that's an issue because that's spreading and it's really affecting how we go forward as a nation. Somewhat obvious, but yeah. So these escalations will no doubt reach our shores. No doubt they're going to reach our shores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, drone situations. My thought, just Heidi's thought, for whatever good that is, was that of course drones can see overhead, so they can see if there's any camps that shouldn't be there, whichever, whether they're terrorist camps or whether they're domestic terrorists going on. Either way, so that can be surveillance that way. But also, they could also be sniffing out any nukes or any other kind of chemicals. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Hmm.
Of course.
Well, yeah. If you think back to 2007, and they were talking about a drone highway. Do you remember that? When NASA was building a drone highway in the FAA, in combination with NASA, we're building that drone highway. This is when most of your, Amazon and Google and all these guys, they said we're going to have drones up in 5 years, delivering this, that, and the other. Well, they completed the highway, and as soon as they completed the drone highway, it was hijacked. So they couldn't really utilize it. It was hijacked, and so the highway exists, and it's been occupied. So that's complete with digital air traffic control, right? All vectoring for altitudes for the drones is done. In essence, you launch a drone, and then the highway itself will instruct the drone where to go. That's how that works. It's not like anybody controls it. The highway controls it. It'd be like somebody jumping in a car and they get on the highway and they take their hands off the steering wheel. The destination is going to be worked out by the highway. So essentially, you have a computer system directing traffic up there. Now, it's been busy since 2000 and I believe 15. Very busy since 2015, but people don't look up. And the USA, one piece of technology that the USA has had for a while, it is well, it's not known. So I can speak about it because it doesn't exist. It's called an observation platform. Now, here's why I'm mentioning this. There are people out there that have seen a blur out of the corner of their eye, right? Like something was in the sky, but they missed it. They always just missed it. It leaves a blur. It's like a shimmer. It's almost like you can see right through it. These things are so incredibly fast. I mean, incredibly fast. And they have perfected the art of redirecting noise straight up in the atmosphere. So nobody's going to hear it on the ground. These observation platforms can hover right over your house, and you wouldn't even notice. And then when you look up, they can be gone, snap of a finger, and all you would notice is a blur, like part of the sky is distorted or something. And some people have noticed that, but those are all over the place. And I think that people are starting to notice new generations of those things, especially at nighttime. We also have a lot of civilian drones. We have the count of civilian drones that are being used has quadrupled in the last year alone. So we have a lot of drones out there, and some of those drones are quite large. They can pick up a couch, for example, uh, and transport a couch. And that's just a standard drone that anybody can fly. One of the companies to look up for that, one of the companies that leads, two companies that lead in that is Altel and DJI. So if you look at either one of those, you'll start to see, okay, that capability exists. And, it makes these drones fly autonomously. They have perfected the flight of that drone, so it's not wobbly and all over the place, this, that, and the other. And they can fly by waypoints. So you can pre-program those drones. They have obstacle avoidance. So they have everything you would need to look like some of these lights in the sky. Now, after going over some of those photographs that people are seeing on the internet, some of those pictures that are being presented are somewhat disingenuous. I say that because some were taken back in 2013, some in 2010. They were actually matched with archival footage of the exact same image, exact same tree line, everything else. But the year was 2013. So some of those images are disingenuous. But most of those sightings are people are starting to take notice of everything in the sky. And of course, some people can't, they really can't, they get nervous. So they may see a Cessna or something like that flying, or a commercial aircraft at high altitude, and mistake it for something else, right? But some of those drones, for example, our military bases, when you have drones that fly over a military bases and hover for 2 hours, nobody knows what to do with it. Nobody does anything about it. Then it just leaves off the same vector, and it does this, 4 or 5 times a month. There's a problem.
Yeah.
And that should let everybody, why would the military allow any drone to hover over a facility for that long? Well, a lot of people they may not know this is a major deal. It has to do with UFOs and official policy. A long time ago, back in the 60s, over the nuclear bases, there were objects spotted. And nuclear war almost broke out about 12 times in the world because of these objects. And these were not man-made objects to anybody's understanding. They were something else. Upon identifying those objects, it scared a lot of people, and the Russians thought it was the USA. The USA thought it was the Russians. Those in Germany and other countries, of course, they thought it was either Russia or the USA. So a global policy was set that when these things show up, all these bases will contact each other to verify it is not, them. That's a fact. They do that to this very day. If something shows up over Russia, everybody is notified that something is over Russia, and that everybody verifies it's not them. It's not us. They did this because these objects would appear, turn off the equipment, retarget or give new targeting instructions to some of those analog computers, so on and so forth. Make the missiles inert, shut them down, start them up, do all sorts of things. And it almost started a war more than a few times, about a little over a dozen times. And so that's an ongoing policy in quite a few areas. That's why a drone can hover over a base and they won't do anything, because if they can't identify it, they don't want to attack, because anything that can breach our airspace, with impunity, you don't really want to attack that. They have shot things down, they have, but they know what to shoot down and what not to. If it begins to interfere with the bases, they're not going to touch it, because they know they can't do anything. Anything they attempt to do is going to be, it's almost like anything they anticipate doing is shut down right before they do it. They found this on aerial engagements. They found this in nuclear facilities. So they can't do anything about that. You really don't want to disclose that, because that means you have no air superiority. and people would get nervous. Can you imagine if anybody announced that we can't do anything about those craft?
Yeah.
That would not be good. So the best thing they can do is give no answer. If they give no answer, right, then everybody, yes, they come up with narratives and they get frustrated, but they're not frightened to pieces. They're not scared to death, right? They still think that nations have air superiority, but we don't, when it comes to those things. But they will never admit that. They'll leave it in the gray area every single time, all the time. And it looks like more explanations will come forward concerning that. Not full explanations, that will never come, but they will, chip away and test uh, the reaction of people through social media to see, what the real reaction of people will be. That will continue. That will continue.
Yeah. Sign up.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, that will also increase. Since the New Jersey sightings, I
Mhm.
believe one of the numbers said it increased already about 120% globally. So it'll continue to increase globally. The difference is there have been, for example, was November, over 1,000 people were witness to, uh, one sighting of something that everybody was estimating to at least be 2,000 feet in length. Things like that. Some people were on a overpass or a highway or bridge or something like that, and some saw it from above and some saw it from beneath. They're becoming quite visible these days, and there are the personal encounters and the radioactive signatures left. When they leave, people are starting to see these things. We or America or special access programs, they develop things like that all the time. The guy at uh, Northrop Grumman, he made a comment a few times historically. He said that first of all, he was motivated by a triangle he saw when he was young.
Mhm.
He saw a triangle when he was young. So we're talking about back in the 20s and 30s. Um, and then some before him had actually sketched out the triangle with the three lights. And that was back in the 1800s. Now that's ironic, because they had triangle aircraft flying in the USA with, and other countries, obviously, with three lights and one red light in the center back in the 1800s. You start looking back in the 1700s, you get the same report. Keep going back and the same reports. Uh, so some craft have been persistent throughout time. They've seen these things, but these guys who started these companies were motivated by these very things. And one of the individuals who was head of Northrop Grumman said that whatever you've seen in Star Trek, he said they've already built it and achieved it, and they're able to do it.
Mhm.
And it's, those things have been involved. So they've been quite busy, developing things.
Mhm.
Anti-gravity, things like that. Anti-gravity is not a mysterious thing. It's more misunderstood than anything else. It's just that people are not taught uh, full sciences,
Mhm.
right? Because science is just not, it's almost like they teach limitations so that a person can never get their mind past a certain point of exploration. Um, but it's misunderstood more than anything else. They've already achieved that several times over and utilize it. So to them, it's not this big deal. To everybody else, it is, because they can't. They're not given the academics to study and achieve it.
Mhm.
They're always thrown off. They can't get things patented. That's a big deal, and it stops there. But it's not. It's not what you would think it is.
Mhm.
It's not a complicated process. It's kind of like combustion,
Mhm.
uh, like the mystery of a car engine. For somebody who's never seen doesn't know about a car engine, they're asking, how's that thing moving? Well, we know it's by an engine and ultimately by combustion, or some motors in there, but other people may not know that. And so anti-gravity is the same thing,
Hmm.
same exact thing.
I,
But we have things.
I love that you said that it's actually because that you put limits on your mind, because
Uh-huh.
that's
That's right.
that's the reality of it.
That's
Is
right.
we shouldn't be teaching our children to stop their curiosity. That's
Yeah, and they do kill the imagination, don't they? You know,
hmm
you have problem children. I would consider myself a problem child.
hmm
So
hmm
as I went through high school and got to college, I questioned it too much,
hmm
right, to the point of aggravation of professors. But
hmm
it's just that I couldn't accept what I was seeing or hearing. The limitations that I saw were blatant,
hmm
and even the professors had no answer for certain things I would ask.
hmm
The textbooks didn't either, but they teach limitations, and it ruins. Well, the trick is this, and there's a very wise person told me this one. Says he said in universities they don't teach a person to be an entrepreneur. They teach people to be an employee. They teach people to be good employees. And so they teach them essentially, they indoctrinate them to become components in the world machine. So nobody goes higher than the machine itself. They just simply serve a purpose for the sake of that machine.
hmm
They keep everything going within, the system, so to speak. But you have some people that think outside the box and still have an imagination.
hmm
So that's a good thing. But yeah, kids are taught limitations big time.
hmm Yeah. Oh, we all are. We all are taught that,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But and I think I've been studying Jesus. That's exactly what he was going through. Everybody, he's like, I can only meet you where your level of faith is. So he was always just trying to prod everybody to expand their level of faith.
Oh yeah. Oh
Hmm.
yeah.
All right. So Russia. Let's go to Russia. Number one, we have a plane that was shot down, but also Russia expanded everything over the holiday. So what's going to happen with Russia here?
They're going to continue. They're not going to stop.
Hmm.
The world is at war.
Hmm.
Uh, that is ground zero for some of the larger confrontations that will take place. Belarus, for example, is done with Russia.
Hmm.
They're giving warnings. The Pope has given warnings. Again, that was yesterday and the day before yesterday concerning the escalations. Too much death is involved, and Russia hit the Ukraine hard, very hard.
Hmm.
But if you notice, uh, when the Ukraine war started, people must remember when the Ukraine war started, they evacuated. You remember they evacuated everybody from the Ukraine,
Hmm.
and then what did they do? They cut off the borders. And they kept certain personnel in the Ukraine. They could not escape the Ukraine because they cut them off. And then you had an influx of soldiers from certain, unnamed countries pouring into the Ukraine to fight. So they pulled a fast one. What happened? We had troops in theater in Europe and everywhere else, and the people were coming from Europe going into the Ukraine. Of course, there are lots of Russia picks up evidence every single day from U.S. military operators in the Ukraine, which is not good. So he already knows this is not this is not a fight for the Ukraine or Kiev or Crimea, but this is a war against NATO. He already knows that. He's not going to stop his pursuit of what he thinks is freedom, right? Because he thinks we are encroaching upon his country. And if we get a foothold in the Ukraine, for example, in that strategic location, he's going to lose control of his own country. He's not gonna do that. Of course, the Ukraine was lost during the Chernobyl incident that broke the nation, uh, and of course, everything fell apart since then. So it was dismantled. We'll say the Russia was dismantled and given a new identity, and then NATO has lied to Russia at every turn, so they can't trust NATO. They can't trust anybody outside of themselves. Every promise that NATO made Russia, uh, he found out it was a ploy. It was a lie. Nobody fulfilled their promises. They could have had peace with Russia, but the problem was every time they promised, for example, freedoms of certain locations, that they would not take further ground, that NATO would not take further ground and set up shop in certain areas, they reneged. Not more than a year later, they reneged. They went back on the deal. They tried to renegotiate the terms of the deal, but Russia remembered the first deal, and they said, "No, you can't do that." And so Russia was just simply not going to be pushed over like other countries were. When this happened, it caused a great rift in relationships and trust between NATO and Russia. And the hostilities we see now are in part because of that. So he's not going to stop. He will continue to fight until NATO holds no ground uh, anywhere near that area. He will continue. And one of the big issues I see is this: there are many Islamic forces that are in Russian uniform right now. There are lots of Syrian fighters. Now, the fighters in Syria were coming from Iran to fight in Syria. They were ultimately transferred to Russia. Russia is full of Iranian uh, soldiers right now. Right now, they're fighting every day. They're being trained every day. Now, while the USA is benefiting from not fighting our standard forces in combat right now, Russia is rotating. They're doing combat rotations of different nations. They're troops from different nations. They are actively training forces, and they have been doing this for some time. So we have the world outside of the USA they're being battle hardened by conflict. And you know what that means? They're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and get rid of the weaknesses. And they're going to get stronger while we are wholly dependent upon technology and certain tactics we believe, work because of that technology. That is not that's not a good tactic going forward for anybody. Because if we don't have proper combat training, then the stress factor is going to demean operations. If anything, when it breaks out on a larger scale, and we're gonna, there's a price to be paid, a painful price to be paid always for any military who does that. In a time of wartime escalations, training is invaluable. We're just not we're not training like we should. We don't rotate people into active situations enough, and so you have the hardened military we used to have simply is not there. And what that means is they're not going to be able to fight long. Battle fatigue will settle in very quickly, and that's not going to be good. Our resolve is going to die while the other armies are used to rotating for 2 years at a time.
I find that interesting because so apparently he it's not about religion with him because he is a Russian Orthodox, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
correct, and
Mm-hmm.
and he's all about Mother Russia. So
Mm-hmm.
and he would, uh, in my opinion, he doesn't like Islam, but he's using them as a fighting force. Correct.
Yes, he is. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
he is. Lots of them.
And,
And that's a problem. That's a
mm-hmm.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess my worry is Islamic radicals
Mm-hmm.
seem to do the same thing in the end. They'll
Mm-hmm.
build up in forces and they will go rogue in
Mm-hmm.
a heartbeat. They're going to go rogue in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're in the area, Sister Heidi, where the nuclear weapons are.
Mm-hmm.
They're in that area. And some of the commanders are Islamic
Mm-hmm.
that are over those air defense and offensive air batteries. So if that's going to be compromised at some point, and they're not going to hesitate
Mm-hmm.
to fulfill their faith obligations which is to burn the West. Whether people know it or not, the USA must be on fire for them to properly take down Israel.
Mhm.
They already know that. They already know they can't take out Israel so long as we still exist. So in their hadith, we must be burning. We must be on fire.
Mm.
At the same time, Israel is on fire. Well, the only way they can achieve that, well, they can do it in a couple of ways, and they're probing right now with our nuclear facilities. They tried with power, but the yield just wouldn't be enough. They've tried with telephones to confuse communication, but we do have lots of redundancies with communication. They've tried with certain people planted in banking and the markets and this that and the other to cause that type of confusion. We recovered too quickly, so now there's been an increase in probing, or let's say found tampering of nuclear facilities. Um, that's just not good. We have radioactive materials that are missing. The nature of nuclear material and how it can be encased without detection, uh, that's been different too for about a year now. That means somebody can have a nuclear fissile material and encase it in a way that it cannot be detected,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So it just can't be detected. Well, having that in mind, we know that unauthorized personnel have been captured in quite a few nuclear facilities, and it keeps happening. Just like those people that were flying drones around transformers attempting to cipher part of the power network. They weren't trying to blow up the transformer; they were trying to steal information uh, from the data that would go through the transformer through those transmission lines. And we have that type of escalation. So at some point, we likely will entertain some type of meltdown in the USA. And of course, most of our facilities and most of our oil refineries and most of our gas operations are centralized right up the middle of the USA,
Mhm.
right up the middle. And Texas, in my opinion, Texas should be one of the most secured locations in the USA. It really should be. It is target number one. And, Texas is in trouble. They just they're not going to have the wherewithal to watch all of what they need to watch. They just won't. And so when the fires begin, Texas is going to be a big part of that. We
Mhm.
just can't afford to have Texas compromised like that. If they set the gas on fire and the oil on fire, that with nuclear facilities, we're in trouble. They can set either one on fire, and it will, it's going to trickle up to many different systems
Mhm.
right there in Texas. So, Texas needs some serious uh, firepower and technology to keep it from the hands of the enemy. Now, having said that, now you may recognize some of the moves that have been taking place,
Mhm.
but I think they need more. If you notice, most DoD industries, civilian-based contractors have moved to Texas.
Mhm.
Most of them have, specifically for the DoD. Um, so they have somewhat increased it. It's just not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. What's happening now in the USA right now, because it's not spoken about, because it's not reported, because people don't know about it. Uh, of course, they're not going to have fear of it, but not knowing about it gives a false sense of security. But we're being probed in the USA. Worse than we know. It is worse than we know. It is quite serious. Kind of like that drone situation. While some of it is not serious at all, some of it is quite serious,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And you said it yourself, that you believe that some of that could be nuclear, chemical, uh, biologically connected.
Mhm.
Well, I give that a thumbs up, 100% on that one, because some of the there have been some
Mhm.
captured vehicles, so they know what they are. They
Mhm.
know what they are, but they dare not say anything.
Mhm. Yeah. So one of the another big question going on here is should we have medicine on hand for radiation?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, always. Yeah. I tell you what, it seems minuscule, something that unnecessary, right?
Hmm.
It's always going to be unnecessary until it takes place. And when it takes place, no one will be able to find it. The
Hmm.
government has bought up most of the supplies.
Hmm.
Um, then you have people in the civilian sector who who support the government. They bought up the other half of supplies. So
Hmm.
if you can find it, if you can find good batches, make sure they're credible batches. Though there have been some mishaps in that area. People always try to capitalize off of people's fears, and so they have been selling placebos, you could say,
Hmm.
to folks, and nobody wants a placebo. But the uh, what's available out there, it will essentially stop some of those particulates
Hmm.
from tearing up the thyroid. Because once the thyroid is, the adrenal gland and thyroid and all those things are compromised, they will just radically deteriorate the body in a very bad way. And essentially, just in case nobody knows, radiation essentially destroys cellular tissue and matter, and you start to melt. Essentially, well, I'll say your blood vessels burst. They start leaking all over the place. You just start leaking, and it continues, and it won't stop. So there's no reversing it. So the best way to protect yourself is through prevention. That way, if they're on hand, if you hear about some sort of meltdown, you can, take your medication there. I don't want to say the name of the medication because it might draw the wrong attention to this topic, and we start having technical issues.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So also I know that BP has those Geiger counter things that people can get too. Jesse has them over there in his place. So um, another great plague. We're already hearing about California locking down. What do you think?
Well, he's in trouble, right? Didn't he? Didn't California somehow lose? It's up in the trillions now, I believe. Oh boy, it's a bad situation forming with California. Let's just say that California is becoming unraveled, and
Mm-hmm.
the accounting books are being opened. I'll tell you something. War is coming, a different type war, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the book of secrets is going to be let out, and when it does, there's going to be some problems, because, for example, Elon has already found waste in excess of trillions already,
Mm-hmm.
in excess of trillions. Now, here's the benefit of that. And you remember the student loans that were forgiven?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they weren't forgiven, and now people owe that money back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Not good, not good. So Supreme Court shot that down. Why? Because we have an absolute institutional change taking place. And when people find out what has actually happened, they're not going to be happy. Anyway, um, I think that sometimes people jump the gun on certain things, I'll say. And it just so happens that came out at the same time the books were turned over. And
Ah.
when something like that happens, it's very difficult to trust the authenticity of what they're calling for. Is the timing is too perfect,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at the same time, this missing money was was that topic was brought up. All of a sudden, you know, and the fear mandates comes back, and mandatory this and that, and investigations of another type. It's almost like all assets have been, investigation and assets have been redirected, right, in the disease area, not the financial area, right? And so, but we'll see.
That's very interesting. Hmm.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Good to know. Good to know. And unfortunately, we can't talk about situations, so we can't go deeper there.
All right. All
So,
right.
climate, the climate has been crazy.
Get
California
ready.
had waves, Hawaii had waves. We keep having atmospheric rivers out of the Pacific Northwest. Um, somebody told me Australia's on fire. So what's going on?
Oh, this is the part that this is my grief. This part grieves me. The weather is grieving me. If people can't see it by now, something is different, and it has been for at least 5 years, longer than that, but essentially the 5 years we've been enduring this weather has been just drastic changes, escalation after escalation, increase. The trends are increasing, the winds are uh, breaking all records, temperatures breaking records, storms breaking records, floods breaking records, right? Everything weather related breaking records. And it's been increasing mathematically, right? It's been increasing mathematically year by year. So it's easy to see that 2025, uh, 2025 is going to be devastating. I'll go ahead and say it. It'll be devastating as far as conditions are concerned. I don't like heat. The heat is coming. Nobody can do anything about that. Nobody can. It's already been identified what's causing the heat. That's been identified for some time now. Um, it's pitiful they continue to use the narrative for the sake of the system and navigating people's minds in certain areas with climate change, because we're not talking about something isolated to Earth. It's not, and it's, they know for a fact climate change, all of what we're seeing in the climate is due to the changes in the sun. And the changes in the sun should be the question. What's causing the sun to change? They won't bring that up. Have you noticed? They will not bring that up. They try to say, this is a normal solar maximum minimum cycle. No, it isn't. It's highly abnormal. Highly abnormal. Something is affecting our sun in a very big way. It's reflecting in the activity of the sun, the chemistry of the sun changing, thus changing our circumstances here on this earth. And they're going to continue to escalate. So we're at a critical junction, though, is what I want to mention. Everybody should remember back in the 90s when they said, hey, if we if our temperature increases at 1.5 degrees, you remember that? They were saying everybody's in trouble. It's kind of like when they said, if Russia in 30 more days, Russia's going to have a breakthrough, or Russia's going to, they're going to have nuclear weapons. Well, they've been saying that since 1998, right?
Right.
And you mean to tell me they still don't have nuclear weapons? Sometimes we hear, we don't, but we don't hear, right? We hear and don't hear. The weather's the same way. They continue to say every single year that if we go, they stop saying it, by the way. You don't hear anybody saying if we go up another 1.2 degrees, we're in trouble. You don't hear anybody saying that because we've gone up 1.2 degrees 4 times already. 4 times. And the every meteorologist out there is under pressure. Can you tell? Because when they start reporting the weather, they are extremely careful to go only with what the model is saying. So if they don't have the model for it, the European or USA or East and West model, they're not going to use anything. They will not give their opinion of the weather. They will stay within the parameters of what the computer data is telling them. That should capture everybody's attention who's ever interested in weather. That they are afraid. Probably they'll lose their jobs, but they cannot speak outside of those given parameters. Why? Because we have weather that is off the scales. It is unnatural, and it also matches a time in historically when other people had to go through the same thing. Of course, not this severe and not this fast. Our weather developmental changes have taken place in the last 5 years. Normally it takes, 150 to 200, 300 years to achieve, not this fast. They have doctored, they started keeping weather records some time ago, right? But they've doctored the records. The records cache from the 70s in the 80s do not match the records that they're referencing now.
Hmm.
An amazing thing, huh? All this data has become digital. Nobody has, access to books anymore. There are no encyclopedias of historical weather because it's digital. It can easily be changed, and they are utilizing that to their own advantage. But the weather trends that we see, based on those trends, here's what we can look forward to. Of course, hurricanes come inland, right? The trending due to wind speeds and temperature shears will place hurricanes all the way to the Great Lakes this time.
Mm.
And instead of one actually having all the energy to make it that way, we're going to have the Gulf. The Gulf is going to be full of fuel, right? But the Gulf, if you notice this year, the heat expanded. It expanded beyond Florida, going into the Atlantic. And so now we're going to have a conveyor belt of fuel that will go to any storm. That's bottom side fuel. Top side fuel is going to fuel it even more. Through this, the added particulates in the upper atmosphere, this compression event is going to cause these storms to become much more violent. And not, they won't, because storms right now do not need the altitude they used to. A cumulonimbus cloud would have to develop at a certain, it had to be so tall, a specific height to cause, a specific type of lightning and rainfall, this, that, and the other. All that's been compressed because the ionosphere is now becoming dense for the first time in recorded history that we know of. Is becoming dense. So as more and more particulates continue to build up the upper atmospheres, then you have friction. You actually have physical components for friction. Well, the friction is going to reveal the real temperature up there, which is 5,000 plus degrees. Now imagine, anybody can go up there right now and nothing will happen, right? Because it's, I'll say if this were 5 years ago, nothing would happen. Right now, you're going to start feeling prickly. But there was a time when you could put anything up there, no big deal. No big deal, because there weren't enough particulates to transfer the energy from one object to another. Heat is transferred through matter, right? So without matter, you're not going to have a heat or cold transfer of anything. As these particulates continue to come in from outside our heliosphere, it's building up in the upper atmospheres, and that heat is building. It's going to get to the point where we're going to have a one big halo over the earth. So think of the sky in not too far in the future as a shimmering gold burning sky. That's very hot. That's what will happen when we hit a certain point of density in the upper atmospheres. It will seemingly ignite, and then we're going to be in real trouble until it can totally burn out. So that's a real thing. That's a very real thing, and we're approaching that. There are no time estimates on it. The process has already begun. It is ongoing. It is exponential, and it's not stopping. So weather will be, storms are going to be, I'd say, about 2.5 times worse than what they were this time. We were so blessed. Elena was one of the biggest ones we had to deal with, and that caused what, $50 billion in damage by itself. That was a lot, and people are still recovering from Elena. When it's all said and done, they said it will likely reach about $600 billion in damages. Insurance companies, however, more insurance companies have gone under from these storms. So the storms are causing financial woes. We have, in January, not to alarm anybody, but you have a lot of retail stores closing in January. Lots. There's a mandate. They're going to try and get rid of all their inventory, just about everybody in the USA, because taxes are ridiculous for businesses, and you're going to be taxed on that inventory that you carry. So they're going to get rid of inventory, because who in the world would buy an item for the price of $10 wholesale, but then you get taxed $21 if you have it in your inventory. Of course, you're going to sell it, and you're going to give it away if you can, but they're going to make something off of it. So look for prices to be slashed up to 75 to 80%, sometimes getting it at cost. That's going to happen. But a lot of retail stores are closing. The list is growing, and when you start seeing some of your lower income stores, like your dollar stores, right? Those hold the dollar store chain. They're closing all over the place.
Yeah.
All over the place. If you've ever heard of a store called, what is that store called? Big Lots. It is, all of it's part of the same system. Like on merchandise, you'll see a tag. Like if you buy something that's been rejuvenated, so to speak, it'll say sell at dollar stores only or something like that, right? That means that the item has been let's say repurposed, same item, but the contents may be expired or less potent or altered in some sort of way. Well, that was important for a lot of communities to be able to go and get cheaper items like that. But then the prices began to rival everybody else's. And now they're shutting down. At least 80% of dollar stores are going to be shut down by March of 2025. That's awful, right? So then you also have you have a retraction of some of these larger chains that were spreading around, right? And some of the smaller stores, like your Kroger's, like your Food Lions, like your all these different grocery stores, you're going to see a lot of those go out of business. They're going to be shut down too. So we have a consolidation of sales, the sales mechanics in America. Why? Because we have the new identification systems, the new purchasing systems, the new point of sale systems. All those systems are changed. And so whatever's out there now, everything you see out there now is antiquated. The barcode, right? The barcode technology, the software and the adaptability and everything, it's been highly perfected. They're going to go with that. They're going to go with since artificial intelligence is so efficient, we're going to be much like China. So that means you'll be seen everywhere all the time for the rest of your days. And because of that, your access is going to be purely based on biometrics without flaws. So you won't need, you're not going to need certain stores, and you're not going to need the diversity as you once had. They're going to also consolidate products. So you have a lot of manufacturers going out of business. They're going to be repurposed into something else. So the variety is about to go away in a big way. That means, instead of buying 20, instead of having, 10 different types of Tide, you may have 2. Instead of saying, 10 different types of detergent, you may have 2. Right? Fast food restaurants, for example, there are a lot, I think they said 50% of these fast food restaurants are going to be shut down by the 3rd month in 2025.
Wow.
Totally shut down. Yep. So there's going to be a consolidation of everything. Why? Because everything is changing, and it has to do with our atmosphere. It has to do with how they, take care of cattle and how they take care of the farms. They cannot do as they used to do. They just simply can't do that. They have put their fingers, Sister Heidi, into some of the food and everything else for cattle, trying to make them resilient against radiation, all these different things. But they've essentially tampered with our environment so much that they have, it's all out of whack. And now a time has come that I guess they thought they were preparing for, but they have done more damage than good. Now that the heat is coming, the heat and the water is coming. The heat and the water is going to be vicious. So nobody should be surprised if they entertain a year of tsunamis. And what I mean by that, we're going to have large land disruptions in the ocean. There are going to be tsunamis in a lot of places. I would also expect more than a few 9.0 plus earthquakes in the ocean that will cause those tsunamis. Magma breaches are almost constant now. When you see magma breaches in the desert, you've made it. That means, it's really breaching. So that's what we're having. Africa is sad to say, a lot of people have been hurt in Africa due to magma being on the move and fires bursting out of the earth.
Hmm.
Sinkholes have come back. Just this week, there have been some pretty large sinkholes. One took a big, huge portion of a highway, um, and some other, property outside of that, but it was huge. That was taken. Uh, we all know about the floods that people have been enduring. Texas right now, this is December, and Texas has tornado warnings, Louisiana and all those places in Arkansas, and they're going to continue to have these Gulf-fed disastrous storms. But the water has taken its toll, and you'll begin to notice that these storms that are 3, 4, 5, 7 inches of rain, they're going to just start devastating everything. Our infrastructure, the highways, right, the roads. You can't take that type of inundation over and over again. You can't do it. It will crumble at the seams. That means lots of landslides and land deformations, not because of volcanism or anything, but land deformations simply because the contents underneath our feet is changing, right? It's being eroded. And we're going to face a lot of adverse conditions. And that will only be the beginning because the weather is still going to escalate.
Hmm.
It'll escalate to the point where it's going to be very difficult for people to enjoy themselves outside,
Hmm.
because of the winds and uncertainty of lightning and the sun. The sun is going to be quite dangerous this year, but we're going to, we're seeing all this develop, and they're trying to normalize it by smiling on all weather stations like it's normal,
Smiling.
and they do. They make it a point to smile.
Hmm. I was saying before you got on here, they took all the eggs off the shelf. All the eggs are recalled.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
That's not all that's being recalled.
Hmm.
The beef is next.
Hmm.
They have no choice. You know what? It really lets you know something. You know how a lot of people say they want to kill us, right?
Hmm.
They want to kill us off. Well, they don't want to kill you in the way that you think. To kill a person is to kill their will, to kill their own personal purpose. Uh, if you can cause a person to become essentially an automaton, that's what they want. They want a person to live their prescribed way of life, not a person's own way of life. In other words, they don't want a person uh, to live their life full of faith, full of these things, because it allows a person to discern what they're doing, and they hate discernment of people. They know people aren't dumb. They hate discernment, and so do you know there will be releases on this, by the way, and I'm gonna, as soon as it comes out, I'm gonna capture one, make sure you guys get it if you don't find it first. But there will be a release of a type of assault that's been upon the minds, the carnal minds of people, their natural minds of people, so they're not so creative. Because if you noticed, I'd say in the last 20 years, creativity has dropped down so low. Some of the artists that are out there, uh, I can almost guarantee they're having an issue being creative.
Hmm.
They still have the talent, but the creativity is not there yet.
Hmm.
That inspiring spark is just elusive. It's very difficult to get a hold of, and that part of that is due largely to nutrition. Because if they can nutritionally depress a person will mentally follow. Uh, unless now as a Christian, we're to learn, and it can be learned um, to not live by the mandate of flesh,
Hmm.
right? But to command our flesh, to discipline our flesh is where it starts. But if people can't do that, if they don't have that ability, and that's only through Christ, they're prone to whatever the flesh is being subjected to, and given that, most people have a depressed um, nutritional values in the system. Most people, Americans especially, I believe it's 86% are dehydrated all the time. Now they absolutely control your water intake. The truth be told, nobody Who has a lab at home that can examine the water they drink?
Mhm.
No, we're still trusting labels. And unfortunately, we don't live in an honest and forthcoming world.
Mhm.
We're trusting labels, and that's a big issue. Of course, we have Christ, so we can pray over things, and He can, whatever's meant for evil will be used for for the glory of the Lord and for our sakes. But the world doesn't have that, and so they're absolutely controlling everything, causing people to not be creative, right? To be more prone to this routinistic lifestyle of their choosing, and people are finding comfort in pleasing the system, and then they do what they want to do. But it's an absolute psychological job on people's mindsets. And you have your rebellious ones. That's what they call Christians. They rebel against that system of living, because they say if they can get everybody on that system, everybody's prosperous and everything works, right? But Christians are rebellious because we see iniquity. That's the problem. They believe everybody should be able to exercise. Now, this is coming from, I don't want to, be divisive here, but this comes from a particular part of our government, but they believe that people should be able to freely exercise whatever they desire they want to become. They believe they ought to have the resources and the space to become anything they want to be. Anything. I mean, anything. And so, with those policies that have been pushed forward, it's giving everybody a license to act on their own rebellion. That's what I'll say. That's just simply acting on our own rebellion. We get mad at the world, we get mad at people, and all of a sudden we want to disassociate from our identity connected to this person, that family, this person, and become something totally different that we feel accepted in. That's why so many changes, so many policies deal with changing of a person's physicality to give them a license to become a part of something else they never were a part of, but to fully reject, um, where they came from, wherever the problem stemmed from. All that is happening due to an absence of Christ in people's lives, right? Because if they don't, if there's an absence of Christ, there's no healing. If there's no healing, a person does not recover from traumatic things of the past. And if that's not done, well, then there's only one escape from, well, there are two ways to escape that. But one way is to totally rebel against what you are and to become something else so you can have a new life. And unfortunately, we live in a world just like that that offers that. Well, for now, anyway. For now, anyway.
But unfortunately, we're too close to the end. We have to make sure that we have compassion and love,
Yep.
and not be operating in anger and all of these things. Hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're very close. So back, I totally got off the weather, Sister Annie. Back to the weather again. Uh, we're gonna have to, I hate to say it, it's gut wrenching because I just don't like to see people lose everything.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, Anybody who's ever gone through that, they know what loss is.
Hmm.
And although, I may be somewhat immune to it now, I'm still very sympathetic to people who go through it for the first time or who go through it the second time or third time. And that time is certainly coming. Um, we're going to see our land start to crumble big time.
Hmm.
And the water is coming. The water's coming. If the land fails, we are already in the water, right?
Hmm.
Most of Earth is water. If the land fails, if the land erodes, we're already in the water. If in the oceans, if we have a sudden shift of land masses, and we will 1,000% have a sudden shift of land masses in the ocean, uh, we're going to have a sudden rise of water on one side of the continent, followed by a dramatic decrease of the level of water on the other side. And it will level off, and that's going to take some time for it to level off. We're going to see that type of event. And there will not be a spot on the earth where you'll be able to step that's not soggy. Now, God said He would not destroy the earth by water. This won't be destruction, but it will certainly be it's going to give some folks some headaches. It's going to be a challenging situation. Uh, And when it happens the first time, that's when people will notice, this is possible. But that, based on the trends, it's going to be followed by nothing but dryness. And when I say nothing but dryness, I mean no rain whatsoever will fall. People are going to start to see the clouds totally dissipate. How will that happen? Through that particle density increase in the upper atmospheres is going to start drying everything out. That's when humidity drops to 8%. And we're going to be in. So imagine no water or no rain for a year, for the first year, right? That'll be devastating. And then imagine that continues. It does not abate, it continues. Those are the types of environments we're coming into. Everything will be dust on the surface of the earth without water. Yeah, because the particle count is becoming so dense. They have moved so many satellites in different orbits to avoid this. Friction is building up on the satellites to the point where they have to move them. They have to move them to a higher altitude to get away from the friction. Now that should alert everybody that yes, we have a changing atmosphere at an accelerated rate. But there we are.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about next week?
Well, as I said before, there are some groups that are going to start speaking out. Let's go ahead and face it. There's some political groups that have been doing things within the USA. A war, this I'm going to call it not war. Let's call it this tug of war that we're about to see is going to come from. It's going to be from one government attempting to really set some things straight. But here's the issue: how do you stand in the middle of a beastly kingdom and set it straight? Hopefully everybody is mindful of this, because we're not exactly in days of light. This world is extremely dark, and the systems produce dark things. You know how Jesus said, you'll know a tree by its fruit. If you look at the fruit of these governments, you'll see what they are. They're not holy. So you have an administration coming in, attempting, right now at least, to totally confront this darkness. Is what they're doing. It's going to be a war, because Satan does not lose territory. He doesn't lose territory. So there's going to be some serious weird announcements, weird things, and I'm seeing it now. It would take a person just like Donald Trump to get that done, because nobody else can make a statement. He's going to have to make statements that sound they're going to sound like me. That's absolutely ludicrous. And so he can't do, Trump is the guy to do that. Nobody else could do that, because people would say, what's wrong with him? Is he, what's wrong with him? But Trump's going to have to go there, because people, for the first time, people will be confronted by certain manifestations and certain uncoverings of certain things. And it's not going to be some easy thing to handle. It won't be. So I think, he must be the guy appointed to stand up during this time.
Must be. Must be. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight and helping me through this.
Sister Heidi, it's an honor. Tell Pastor Paul, I hope he gets better. If he can hear me, I hope he gets better. Just to confess, there is an assault upon folks who, especially folks like Pastor Paul, right? Because he's not backing down.
Right.
We know how Satan works.
Yes.
And he will attack physically, and God will allow challenges from time to time. But we always, the Lord is so good, because we're operating by his timing, and nobody can take command of our Lord and Savior. He will determine how long our hours are, what our employment is, and when it's over. He determines that, not Satan or any other thing can determine that, only him. So that's a good thing to know.
Amen.
That's a good thing to know. So I hope he gets better, though. I'm praying for you guys, for your strength, and I guess we'll we'll get ready for 2025.
Yes.
That sounds so strange. That doesn't sound real. That sounds fake.
It
It really
doesn't.
does sound fake.
Yes.
Okay. Quarter for the quarter. Oh, we're truly in the quarter now.
Yeah.
Well, Sister Heidi, God bless you. It's always an honor. Pastor
Right.
Ball, God bless you too, and everybody out there.
All right.
God bless.
Blessings to you. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was amazing as always. And so, even more amazing, Pastor Paul is going to end it out. All right. Love you guys. Thank you. Thank you for hanging in here with me.
As always. Heidi, give me that right there. Give me my little whiteboard. And my little mouse. And this is yours too. I don't want to lose that. Thank you. All right. Well, Heidi, you did a great job tonight. Really did, as always. And thank God. And, you know, you asked the right questions. Heidi really did ask the right questions tonight. What's coming? You know, we're going into 2025. And this coming Sunday night, I'm going to do my broadcast. It's going to be the 25 things to look for in 2025. I'm going to do it Sunday night. Mike just threw a bunch of them out there, actually. He hit on a lot of them, not all of them, but he hit on a lot of them. And his was basically, he was giving you really about a 5-year heads up. The events that are unfolding between now and 2030 and Agenda 2030. He was really sharing with you the breakdown of society, the collapse of the climate, the heat from the sun, the lack of rain, the outrageous storms, the water events, the saltwater inclusion or infusion, or however you want to say it, coming ashore. All of these things, the volcanoes, the wars, the rumors of wars, the breakdown of the food system, the emptying of the shelves, the preparation of big pharma, big food, and really the shadow government, the black budget government, the deep state, there's the Trump government, and then there's the other government. You heard him say that tonight. All of these things, intrusion, thank you. All of these things are evident. All of the Nibiru, all of the asteroids incoming, all of these things are breaking down society. And then there's the wars, the rumors of wars, the chaos, the push for a one world government, a one world system, a 666 new world order, a mark of the beast, biometric system. All of these things, the camps they're building, the internments, all of the things that are happening are headed now, and they're on. And the stores closing, the dollar stores, the big lots. You're going to see the cutback in Walmarts being built. You're going to see a major hit in property values of big skyscrapers and in the cities. The government is panicking already. They already know it's coming. The corporations can't make their payments to the banks. The banks know this is coming. The BRIC nations are trying to create the one world currencies, or at least create their currency, hoping that will become the one world currency. The cryptocurrencies are trying to overtake the printed money, and then there's always gold. And so you name it all. Everybody's in play. Everything's in play. Disease, famine, wars, plagues, chaos, all these things. And so I think what we heard tonight from Sister Heidi and from Mike Around the World is the warning. The 5 big questions. I think Heidi gave 5 big questions, but I think we got about 25 big answers. And the question you have to ask, the number one question that we all have to ask is, are you ready to go to heaven? Have you accepted Christ as your Savior? Have you been born again? Okay. Oh, hang on. Have you been born again? And so I'm going to play a song, and I want to pray. And like we said, almost 2,000 people have given their life to the Lord this year. I just believe that 2,000 on top of 2,000 should be coming to Christ. And I believe the great revival is coming. But it starts tonight with you. Are you ready to meet the Lord? Are you ready if he should call? Are you going to repent of your sins and call on the name of the Lord? I want to pray with you. Every person that wants to get saved, I'm going to pray with you right after this song.
He was saying grace over a Tuesday blue plate special when the man in the next booth said, "Don't you watch TV? Don't you know that God's a myth? I hate to see you waste your breath. There ain't no use in you talking.
Just type, I want to be saved."
Ghosts that don't exist. The praying man said amen and looked up from his plate and said, "You may not talk to God right now, but there's gonna come a day. If you're a farmer in the field, praying for the rain, or you curse him at the gravesite, 'cause he called a loved one's name, you can thank him, you can blame him. Either way, you're gonna face him, whether you believe in him or not. In the end, everybody talks to God."
Praise God for Pkwy.
The man in the booth went quiet, 'cause he didn't have a comeback. So he shrugged it off and he paid his tab. He shuffled out the door. And the praying man, he prayed for the man who drove away, hoping he would see the light before it got too late. But how was he to know he touched an unbeliever's soul, who got that conversation 2 red lights down the road? If you're a farmer in the field, praying for the rain, or you curse him at the gravesite, 'cause he called a loved one's name, you can thank him, you can blame him. Either way, you're gonna face him.
Praise God, Raymond.
Whether you believe in him or not. In the end, everybody talks to God. Everybody talks to God. You can thank him, you can blame him. Either way, you're gonna face him, whether you believe in him or not. 'Cause in the end, everybody talks to God. Everybody talks to God. We all talk to God.
Praise God. We have people wanting to be saved tonight. I want to pray with them. And if you're watching on the archives, there's another one. I want you to pray or type in the chat room or type in the comments below, and we'll see those tomorrow or the next day as the archives are being reviewed. let me pray with you, whether you're live or archive right now, and accept Christ as your Savior. Father, in the name of Jesus, tonight I heard the truth. Tonight, Sister Heidi and Mike broke down the miracles of Hanukkah, broke down how you've always made a way where there seems to be no way. Also, Lord, they shared with us the major concerns of the next weeks, months, and short period of time between now and 2030. Lord, you must be coming soon. Every indication and every sign from the Bible are coming to pass. Every prophecy is being fulfilled. From the Middle East madness to Europe, to the climate, to the earthquakes and the volcanoes, to the wars and rumors of wars, to the plane crashes and the bus crashes and the ships sinking and the sun heating up and the earth melting and the winds blowing and the storms raging and the water rising and men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking after those things coming on the earth. Lord, I repent of my sins. I'm confessing you right now. And I'm asking you, Lord, to forgive me and to save me and to cleanse me and to wash me from all sin. And I want to give you the praise. I want to accept right now Jesus Christ as my Savior because I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. And I receive Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I believe that he died on the cross. Christ died for the sins of the whole world. I believe he rose from the dead. I believe he ascended to heaven. And I believe he's coming back again soon and very soon. And I want to be ready. So right here, right now, by faith in God's grace, in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Ghost, in Jesus' name, I am saved, I'm saved, I'm saved. I'm healed and delivered, set free, born again, saved in Jesus, saved in Jesus, saved in Jesus' precious name. God bless you guys. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the family of God. We're so glad you give your life to Christ, and we're so glad that you become our brother and sister in Christ. And we're happy for you. Now, Sister Heidi did send that email out. You might want to find out about that. And also, we'll apologize that I haven't been able to keep up with everything going on the last couple days. But I did get the tooth removed this today about 1 o'clock, I guess it was. Piece by piece, the thing just exploded, I guess. I never went through anything like that in my life. It took over an hour and a half to remove a tooth because it just broke in pieces, just in pieces. They picked it out piece by piece. Anyway, I should get better. The infection pretty bad, but don't worry about it. I'm rinsing 3 times a day with salt water. I have high antibiotics, and I'm taking a little bit of help for the pain. And I should be ready to roll. Come Sunday morning, I'm scheduled to preach under the big tent. I want you to pray also for Israel Hall. He was in the hospital with high blood pressure and not feeling well at all. And also Bishop Sam, of course. A lot of prayers for him. He is very, very ill. So the devil really attacking. But greater is he that's in us and he that's in the world. Sister Heidi did a great job tonight. So pray for us here at Paul Begley Prophecy Ministries. Thank you for your prayers and your support. You can send in your offerings. You always know how to do that. Go to our website at paulbegleyprophecy.com, or tomorrow pick up the phone and call 765-414-2230, or send a check or money order in the mail with your end of the year prayer request. And yes, these are the end of the year. If you want to send in your special offering for the end of the year. Some of you have, God has blessed you with another great year. When everybody else seems to be out there struggling, or the economy and the rest of the world, God's people are still being blessed. And that's because you've been faithful tithers. You've been faithful in your giving. You've been faithful. And because you've been faithful, God is always faithful. So God bless all of you. We love you guys. And we'll see you tomorrow. I'll try to be on the microphone tomorrow. God bless you all. We love you. And have a great night. Are you serious? Have a great, great night.